It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. You've been feeling it, an undeniable shift deep within. The former version of yourself no longer fits. Your thoughts have changed, your movements are different, and your tolerance for what once surrounded you has dissolved. You have endured storms designed to break you, and yet, through them, you have grown, emerging with a quiet, unshakable power that cannot be imitated. The truth is this: you are no longer who you once were, and that evolution unsettles those who never imagined you would transform. It is not that you have done anything wrong, rather you have done something rare. You outgrew the limitations others projected onto you. You healed wounds they were too afraid to acknowledge within themselves. You walked through fire and emerged with clarity in your eyes and strength in your step. While others remained trapped in their repetitive cycles, you broke free from yours. Now, even in silence, your very presence speaks volumes. This is your confirmation. What you're sensing is real. They see the difference. They feel the distance. And for some, that shift stirs something within them they would prefer to keep buried. But know this: you did not change to frighten them. You changed to save yourself. Let's take a moment to break this down. But before we go any further, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe. Because what you're about to experience is not merely a video, but a spiritual transmission, intentionally crafted for those who are truly aligned, the chosen ones. If your spirit resonates with what you are hearing, type 77 in the comments right now. That number is not just a sequence of digits. It is a divine confirmation that you have entered a new frequency, a higher identity, and stepped into a version of yourself that no longer fits the spaces, people, or patterns you once belonged to. You are no longer who you used to be, and this message will help you understand precisely why that transformation unsettles those who once believed they knew you. Not everyone will make it to the end of this message, but those who do, those who are truly attuned, will feel every word deep within. And for those who stay, clarity will begin to unfold. You will awaken a deeper awareness, and you will walk away carrying spiritual keys that are subtly embedded within each line. This is not something meant to be heard once and forgotten. It is a living truth, an energetic imprint that reveals more of itself each time you return. So listen as often as your soul calls you to, for with every play you will discover new layers of wisdom and gain a richer understanding of the empowered, awakened being you are now becoming. Let's begin. Chapter 1. You were once easy to manipulate. Let's be honest, chosen one. You weren't always this clear, this sharp, this deeply rooted in your truth. There was a time when you navigated life with your heart in your hands and your soul openly exposed, believing the best in others simply because you had not yet learned how to anticipate the worst. Trust was your default. Love came without hesitation, and you extended the benefit of the doubt, even when people's actions clearly contradicted their words. You tolerated disrespect and explained away toxic behavior. You held on to relationships, not because they brought harmony, but because they held history. You saw potential in those who had no genuine desire to grow. You accepted apologies that came with no real change, and you remained in situations long after your spirit whispered, sometimes shouted, that it was time to go. You convinced yourself that love alone could mend what was broken, believing that if you just loved harder, forgave more readily, or showed up with unwavering consistency, they would eventually recognize your worth. The truth is, your light was only comfortable to them as long as it remained dim. As long as you didn't question their intentions, as long as you remained predictable, silent, and easily influenced, you were acceptable, lovable even in their eyes. They embraced you most when you were unaware of your worth, because your uncertainty granted them control. You were easy to guilt, easy to shame, and easy to manipulate with nothing more than a few carefully chosen words. You confused being needed with being respected. You mistook being used for being valued. You believed that saying yes to everything made you loyal, but in reality it only left you exhausted, disoriented, and disconnected from your true self. But that version of you no longer exists. Something within you broke, not in a destructive way, but in a way that shattered illusion and opened the door to truth. The break was a breakthrough, a sacred cracking that allowed light to flood the darkest corners of your awareness. You stopped romanticizing struggle. You stopped begging to be seen by people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped trying to prove your worth to those invested in keeping you small. You stopped exchanging your power for temporary approval. Now your yes has become sacred. Your no holds undeniable strength, and your silence, intentional, grounded, and clear, has become a language of its own. Now they no longer know how to handle you. You no longer play the role they once assigned to you in their script. You no longer feed their ego, tiptoe around their dysfunction, or exhaust yourself explaining your truth 10 times just to be heard once. You refuse to remain where you are merely tolerated, simply to avoid being alone, because now you understand that peace is far more valuable than people-pleasing. You've come to realize that alignment holds greater power than attachment, and that protecting your energy is far more important than preserving anyone else's comfort. They are not angry because you've wronged them. They are unsettled because, for the first time, you chose to do something for yourself, and that, to them, is threatening. Why? Because you are no longer predictable. You are no longer easily manipulated. You no longer shrink in rooms where you once stayed silent. You no longer smile to maintain false peace when your spirit feels disturbed. You no longer carry the weight of others' chaos just to make them feel secure. You have stepped fully into your truth, and your truth does not bend for anyone. You were once easy to manipulate, but those days are over. You have become someone they cannot control, cannot guilt, and cannot figure out. And that makes you dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a liberating one, to every system, every person, and every illusion that depended on your blindness to survive. Now you see, and because you see, you are free. Chapter 2. You've outgrown the box they put you in. People love to label you because labels keep them comfortable. Labels make life simple. Once they think they know who you are, they can control the narrative. They can assign you a role, define your worth, and place limits on your potential, all while never having to look beyond their own assumptions. It's not about who you truly are. It's about who they've decided you're allowed to be. Because if they can keep you in a box, they don't have to face the discomfort of your transformation. But chosen one, you've outgrown the box they put you in. They remember who you were when you didn't know your power, when you downplayed your voice, when you ignored your intuition, when you allowed your fear of disappointing others to keep you from stepping into your truth. They remember the version of you that didn't question anything, the one who gave without receiving, the one who tolerated mediocrity in the name of loyalty. And they expect you to stay there frozen in time so they can continue operating in control. But you don't fit there anymore. You've expanded mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Your thinking is different. Your energy is elevated. Your discernment is sharp. You walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with alignment. You speak with more authority. You say no with clarity. You no longer explain yourself just to soothe someone's discomfort. You've learned that self-respect sometimes looks like silence, that peace is often found in walking away, that growth will cost you people who only knew how to love the unhealed version of you. And instead of celebrating your evolution, some people feel offended by it. Why? Because your transformation exposes their stagnation. Your freedom challenges their limitations. And your rise threatens every illusion that once kept them in control. Your healing compels them to confront the pain they've long suppressed. Your elevation makes their complacency increasingly difficult to justify. Your boundaries expose their lack of discipline, and your light forces them to acknowledge the shadows they've chosen to avoid. Understand this. You didn't change to harm them. You changed to heal yourself. But healing, by its very nature, is disruptive to those who remain attached to dysfunction. You did not betray them. You simply stopped betraying yourself. And that one powerful decision to choose truth over approval and growth over guilt was the moment the box they had placed you in shattered completely. You were never meant to stay small. You were never meant to play a supporting role in a life you were born to lead. They may resent your transformation. They may attempt to minimize it. They may even say you've changed. as if that were something to be ashamed of. But that's the point. You have changed, and you should never feel guilty for evolving. Now they scramble to recategorize you, to make sense of your new self using the language of your former identity. But it doesn't work, because your evolution no longer fits their narrative. You refuse to shrink yourself to preserve their comfort. You no longer dim your light to shield their insecurities. You don't belong in their box anymore, because boxes are for storage, and you were never made to be confined. You were built for movement, for growth, for becoming. You have outgrown who they thought you were. The version of you they created in their minds no longer exists. Today you are living in your truth, not in their expectations. And that truth, bold and unshaken, will always make the insecure uncomfortable. Chapter 3, you reflect what they're not willing to become. There is something profoundly unsettling about being in the presence of someone who has committed to the inner work. Someone who has sat with their pain, processed their trauma, confronted their demons, and made the conscious decision not to allow their past to define their future. Someone who has chosen growth over comfort, healing over hiding, and transformation over pretense. And chosen one, that someone is you. You need not utter a single word. Your very presence speaks volumes. When others encounter your energy now, they feel its power before they even understand its source. It is not merely your words that resonate. It is your frequency, the way you carry yourself with quiet strength, the way you no longer tolerate what you once begged for, and the way your silence reverberates louder than their noise. Your growth has become a mirror, and the reflection it casts has made some profoundly uncomfortable, because within it they see everything they have long avoided. Unhealed wounds, suppressed emotions, and the self-deceptions they cling to merely to survive. That is why certain people with whom you once laughed, struggled, or even loved have suddenly fallen silent. This silence is neither random nor accidental. It is spiritual and energetic, an inevitable consequence of the evolution you have undergone. They did not distance themselves from you because you did something wrong. Rather, they withdrew because your light became too bright for the shadows in which they still reside. Your presence served as a mirror, reflecting their procrastination, while your self-respect exposed the ways in which they had abandoned themselves. Your inner peace amplified the chaos within their own lives. Though you never called them out directly, your personal growth spoke volumes. And here lies a difficult truth. Not everyone desires to heal. Healing requires effort, accountability, and the courage to peel back layers of denial to confront uncomfortable truths. Many are simply not ready to undertake that journey. Instead of rising to meet your new standards, they retreat. Rather than transforming themselves, they choose to criticize. Instead of asking how you achieved your growth, they judge you for evolving. By focusing on perceived flaws in you, they avoid confronting the emptiness within themselves. They may claim that you have changed, that you now act as though you are superior, or that you have forgotten your roots. But the reality is this: they can no longer relate to the healed version of you. The version they once knew was simply more familiar and more comfortable for them. The new version of you may feel foreign to others, and what people cannot label, they often reject. What they do not understand, they mock. Not because you are wrong, but because they fear what they would be forced to confront within themselves if they attempted to walk the same path. You have become a living embodiment of what is possible when someone chooses to do the inner work. It is not that you are better than them, but rather that you are braver. You possess the courage to break generational patterns, to sit in silence with your pain, and to rise from the very places that were intended to break you. While others opted for the familiarity of comfort, you chose the uncertainty of freedom. While they remained numb, you dared to feel deeply. And while they continued to repeat old cycles, you made the difficult choice to break them. The life you are now living is a direct result of those decisions. Therefore, if certain people begin to fall away, let them go. If your circle grows smaller, do not panic, for your path demands alignment, not attachment. Those who are meant to evolve alongside you will do so, and those who feel judged or threatened rather than inspired were never meant to journey with you for the long distance. You didn't lose them, you evolved. When you become a mirror for what others aren't yet prepared to face, don't shrink. Let your light shine boldly. It may unsettle some, but it will illuminate the path for others. Keep moving forward. Chapter 4. You don't entertain the same conversations anymore. There was a time when gossip was your favorite pastime, when complaining felt like therapy, a way to release tension and connect with others. Chaos was simply background noise, so familiar that you hardly noticed how much it was wearing you down. You laughed at drama, maybe even thrived on it, because it offered a distraction from the deeper, more uncomfortable work you needed to do within yourself. But something inside you shifted. You grew, you leveled up. Now those same conversations that once felt engaging seem hollow, empty echoes of a version of you that no longer exists. Small talk, which once served as a social balm, now feels meaningless, like speaking words without intention or depth. The drama that once entertained or comforted you now drains your energy more quickly than you can restore it. Surface-level people no longer interest you. Your spirit now craves substance, clarity, truth, and peace. You've outgrown conversations that endlessly revolve around shallow topics, complaints, jealousy, or distractions. Your soul seeks alignment with your purpose, and this shift is not merely about what you talk about, it's about who you are becoming. You have evolved into someone who values time as the precious, non-renewable resource it truly is. You guard your energy with intention, knowing it fuels your creativity, your vision, and your happiness. Engaging in meaningless chatter or drama feels like pouring gasoline on a fire you've already extinguished within yourself. It's draining, exhausting, and misaligned with the person you are now. As a result, you no longer have the time, energy, or desire for conversations that don't elevate, inspire, or propel you forward. You naturally distance yourself from those who thrive on negativity or attempt to pull you back into outdated patterns of thinking. Instead, you choose to surround yourself with individuals who encourage growth, speak with intention, and share your hunger for something greater, something deeper, more honest, and profoundly fulfilling. In this process of transformation, some people around you may begin to feel rejected. They sense the growing distance and often misinterpret it, unable to understand that your shift isn't about them. It's about the new boundaries you've established for your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Some may accuse you of acting superior or becoming emotionally distant, but the truth is far simpler. You've come to understand your worth. You now respect your time, your energy, and your mental space enough to no longer waste them on interactions that serve no higher purpose. As you stop feeding into the cycles of gossip, complaint, and drama, those who once thrived on your distraction may take it personally. They may attempt to pull you back into those patterns or make you feel guilty for changing. But that burden no longer belongs to you. Your growth is not a rejection of them. It is a declaration of self-love and self-respect. It is the conscious choice to prioritize peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and purpose over distraction. It is the sacred act of honoring the divine within you by fiercely protecting what matters most: your mind, your energy, and your soul's calling. You are no longer a participant in the noise. You are the creator of a new frequency, and that in itself is what sets you apart. Chapter 5. You're walking in confidence, not codependency. There was a time not so long ago when you craved validation as desperately as air, when being liked felt essential to your survival, and you bent over backwards to keep everyone around you happy, even if it came at the expense of your own peace. You contorted yourself into unrecognizable shapes, trying to fit into molds that were never designed for you. You placed others' opinions on a pedestal, allowing their approval to become the shaky foundation upon which you built your sense of worth. In those moments, you were operating from a place of codependency, relying on external voices to define your value, soothe your fears, and calm your insecurities. But something within you began to shift. You started to see clearly that no one outside of you holds the ultimate truth about who you are. The authority to affirm your worth does not live in someone else's praise or judgment. It resides entirely within you. You began reclaiming your power the moment you chose to validate yourself. That transformation started inward, where you discovered a wellspring of strength, clarity, and love that no outside force could taint or take away. You began speaking to yourself with kindness and respect, trusting your own voice above the noise. And in doing so, you stepped into a kind of confidence that is rare, an unshakable, deeply rooted confidence that feels foreign to those still trapped in cycles of approval seeking. For people who depend on the validation of others to feel secure, your self-assurance can seem intimidating or even threatening. When you no longer seek their approval, when their silence, guilt trips, or disapproval fail to sway you, they come to a sobering realization. They no longer hold power over you. The old levers they once pulled, manipulation, control, emotional games, simply no longer work. You have risen above the noise. You no longer walk in codependency, you walk in confidence. As you grow more grounded and self-assured, your shift in energy can leave others feeling powerless, confused, or even resentful. But here's the truth. That reaction is not your fault, and it's certainly not your burden to carry. You are not operating from ego or arrogance. You are operating from clarity and deep self-awareness. Your confidence is not a performance meant to prove anyone wrong or to flaunt superiority. It is simply the natural result of standing firmly in your truth, rooted in the unshakable knowledge of who you are. You've built a foundation so solid, so internally fortified, that external opinions no longer penetrate or cause cracks. You no longer chase approval, nor do you pursue people or situations in an attempt to feel worthy. Instead, you attract what aligns with your most authentic self: people, opportunities, and energies that resonate with your frequency. Your groundedness has become a quiet but powerful magnet, drawing in what is meant for you and releasing what no longer serves you without force or resistance. This inner transformation alters everything: your relationships, your decisions, and the way you move through the world. You walk with your head held high, not out of denial of your flaws or the illusion of perfection, but because you trust your journey, your growth, and the wisdom you've earned. You are steady, centered, and unshakable, and with every step you reaffirm the truth that real power does not come from depending on others for validation, but from the unwavering trust you have built within yourself. Chapter 6, Your Vibe Disturbs Their Demons. Let's call it what it truly is. The discomfort some people feel when you walk into a room isn't about what you say or how you look, nor is it a simple clash of egos or opinions. It cuts far deeper than that, touching a level most would rather avoid acknowledging. It's a spiritual vibration, a frequency you carry within you, one that resonates so powerfully it unsettles the shadows lingering in the souls of others. Your energy hums on a wavelength that their inner demons cannot tolerate. It's like a beacon of light piercing through the thick fog they've long used to hide from themselves. When you enter their space, something invisible begins to shift. The air changes, the atmosphere tightens, and it's not merely their ego being bruised. Rather, it is their buried pain and long-suppressed fear that begins to stir, rattle, and rise to the surface in response to your presence. You see, your healing journey becomes an unintentional mirror, reflecting back to them the wounds they've spent years trying to bury beneath layers of denial, anger, projection, and distraction. Your personal growth, your emotional clarity, and your spiritual awakening begin to crack open the carefully constructed walls they've built to protect their pain, revealing a rawness and brokenness they've refused to acknowledge. Your truth casts long shadows across the lies they've told themselves to stay comfortable. And when your light hits those dark corners, their masks, stitched together from fear, shame, and insecurity, begin to fracture and crumble. What follows is often panic, unease, or even aggressive attempts to silence or distance themselves from you. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your authenticity threatens the fragile structures of the reality they've built. It challenges the false narratives that keep them safe in their suffering. And for many, that's more terrifying than remaining wounded. Your presence isn't the problem, it's their resistance to facing themselves. Here lies the cosmic irony. It's not your presence that unsettles them because of noise or confrontation, but rather because of the sacred silence that lives between your words. A calm, unwavering confidence and quiet power that convicts far more deeply than any accusation or argument ever could. That silence becomes a thunderous declaration, speaking volumes without sound, proclaiming, "I am aligned, I am whole, I am free." And that truth reverberates like a storm through the darkened chambers of their soul, disturbing the shadows they've worked so hard to keep hidden. You no longer need to prove yourself, explain your path, or fight for the right to exist as your fullest, most authentic self. Your very presence is a silent rebuke to chaos and confusion, a living contradiction to the darkness that once tried to consume you. You've broken free from the chains of shame, resentment, and regret that once bound you. And as you walk forward in purpose, those chains clatter behind you, forgotten remnants of a self that no longer exists, while many around you still carry theirs, dragging the weight of unhealed wounds, masked pain, and buried truths. And it is your light, unapologetic, unwavering, radiant, that casts their burdens in sharp relief, illuminating what they have tried so long to keep in the dark. But remember this eternal truth: darkness does not need to fight light, for the light's only task is to show up. And in doing so, the darkness has no choice but to retreat, to fade, to dissolve. And you, chosen one, are that light, bold, sacred, untamed. Your energy disturbs their demons not because you attack, but because you exist as living, breathing proof that transformation is possible, that healing is real, and that authenticity is a weapon more powerful than any sword forged in fear. Your alignment with your higher self has made you unstoppable. And so when you feel the resistance, the cold silence, the sideways glances, the sudden unease in the air, it is not about who you are, but about what your energy exposes. The old spirits still clinging to the people around you, the chains that once held you but no longer fit, the terror of a light that refuses to dim. So stand firm in your truth. Keep your spirit rooted and your essence grounded, for your vibe is not merely a mood or a moment. It is a force of nature, a divine current that shakes the foundations of long-standing darkness. It rattles the cages of demons that have grown too comfortable in the silence of suffering. Let your presence be a revolution. Let your silence roar like thunder across barren lands. Because when light arrives, true, untamed, sovereign light, darkness has no choice but to fall. Chapter 7, you're not who you used to be. And that's a blessing. Here is the unshakable truth. You didn't change to impress anyone, nor did you evolve to fit into someone else's expectations or win their fleeting approval. Your transformation was not for show, performance, or validation. It was born out of necessity, carved from the exhaustion of carrying pain that had grown too heavy, from the weariness of enduring destructive cycles that spun on repeat like a broken record, and from the soul-deep fatigue of constantly shrinking yourself to fit into spaces never designed to hold the magnitude of your greatness. So you chose growth, not the glossy, surface-level kind, but the raw, grueling, sometimes lonely inner work that demands everything and offers only quiet, gradual breakthroughs in return. You turned inward when it would have been easier to stay distracted, numb, or lost in the noise of the world. And you stood before your reflection not just to see your scars, but to honor the strength those scars had birthed. You learned to say no, even when it was uncomfortable, even when everything in you longed to please, to avoid conflict, to stay small and safe. And you chose healing over hiding, truth over denial, clarity over confusion, and alignment over approval. You stepped into the quietest corners of your soul and faced the shadows that once had the power to control you. And in doing so, you emerged with a new rhythm in your step, a confident, deliberate pace that declares, without apology, I am here on my own terms. Your words now carry weight, shaped by intention and sharpened by clarity, no longer diluted by fear or clouded by doubt. Your movements, your choices, and your presence itself are filled with purpose, each action reflecting the sovereignty you fought so hard to reclaim. And this new version of you, rooted, radiant, and unwavering, radiates a power that some find unsettling, particularly those who had grown comfortable with your predictability, your containment, your willingness to dim so others wouldn't feel small. But here's the truth you must never forget. You were never meant to live caged by anyone's comfort, to stay bound by the limits others projected onto you, or to remain small so that others could avoid confronting their own lack of growth. You were always meant to rise. Do not shrink yourself to make others comfortable, and do not dim your light so their unprepared eyes won't burn, because your evolution is not a threat. It is a blessing, a radiant beacon of possibility that extends far beyond you. It is a testament to what becomes possible when someone dares to fully commit to their own growth, their own healing, and their own truth. You are living, breathing proof that real change is possible. Not theoretical, not distant, but tangible, embodied, and undeniable. And while that transformation will inevitably create distance between who you were and who you are becoming, you must understand that this distance is divine, not divisive. Yes, there will be those who struggle to recognize you now, who flinch at your expansion because it casts light on their own stagnation, who may even attempt to pull you back into outdated roles, worn-out narratives, and expired energies that no longer serve your soul's evolution. But you must remember this: the ones who cannot hold space for your growth, who feel threatened by your becoming, were never meant to journey with you to the heights you are destined to reach. This is your era, your sacred season to embrace every facet of who you've become and to walk boldly, unapologetically, and powerfully in that truth. Let go of the weight of past versions of yourself that no longer fit, the personas you wore out of survival, and the scripts you followed to be accepted. Honor the entire journey, the quiet battles, the hidden wounds, the personal victories, and even the painful setbacks. For each moment has been a necessary thread in the tapestry of your awakening. Stand tall, rooted in the knowing that you are a force of nature, that your growth is holy, your evolution unstoppable, and your rise not only deserved, but inevitable. The world needs who you've become, your evolved spirit, your embodied wisdom, your voice, your vision, and your courage forged in the sacred fires of transformation. So keep growing, even when it's uncomfortable. Keep rising even when it disrupts. Keep glowing, even when others shade their eyes. Because this is your time to shine with a brilliance that cannot and will not be dimmed. You are no longer who you used to be, and that, dear soul, is the greatest blessing of all. And if you're still hungry for more chapters to this journey, or a visual concept for a video or thumbnail, just say the word. I'm here and ready to help bring it all to life. Thanks for watching. Here ends this video. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe if you find this video interesting.